His dad was a major league pitcher. But I think we'd all agree he's probably one of the most gifted throwers in the NFL. Don't care what your fandom is. He can make any different slot, but he can make throws from any different slot, but he was a baseball player. That creativity, that imagination that he had as a baseball player related to football. And I say that because I think a lot of our athletes now, especially a lot of our baseball players, don't play any other sports now. All they play is baseball. And my point being is that we have to rethink how we train sometimes, because if we just train baseball, and we don't train the athlete and getting them to be the best athlete out of them, we're not going to get the most out of them. Because I think more times than anything else, we need to free these guys up. We don't need to put restraints on them because they don't feel, they don't learn what they're capable of. I think that's a super important distinction. This is just direction of throws here, just furthering my point of catch play. Alex Mooney, our shortstop last year, 21% of the balls were right at him. 45% of them were on his glove side, 24% were arm side. He barely made a throw that was right at him. Point being, if we're just playing catch and we're only capturing the momentum back and forth, we're not going to be ready for the game. We're not going to capture different feelings and momentum. I think understanding that and rethinking that and having the courage to implement some of these things into your daily routines and process is going to be super helpful. We'll go one more. Anthony Volpe. Numbers are similar. So left would be glove side, 43%. He was 16% right at him. He's got to figure out how to capture momentum, make uncomfortable throws. That's what they're doing. So when you can understand, hey, the guys in the big leagues, they're getting 16 to 20% of the balls hit right at them. Everything else, they got to range and they got to capture their momentum. That's what's super important of understanding and rethinking catch play. I mentioned athletic catch. I mentioned Alex Mooney. To me, there's two types of athletic catch play. There's sequencing and there's game-like. Sequencing creates more efficient throwers. I'm not a throwing expert, but I do know that these help these guys move more efficiently and throw more efficient. So you have karaoke throws, self-explanatory. You do karaoke throws, and we're going to get into most of these. Frankenstein's, Jeter jumps, bouncers, pedals, back pedal throws. My information will be on there, so I'll send you all videos of these guys. If you guys want these, I'll send them to you, email them to you, whatever you want. And game-like, that creates a game-like throw in practice, helps bodies self-organize. And doing this presentation, I realized how impactful this was because we do these every day. Every day you come to our practice, like I said, we do these. But the one thing I realized is this was showing up in reps. This was showing up in ground balls. This was showing up a lot. So it kind of fired me up that hey, encouraged me, we're doing the right things. But it also allows our guys to be more athletic, and they have a lot of fun with this. A question that or a comment that I hear a lot of amateur kids say, especially high schoolers, and they say, hey, I need to get my velo up across the infield. And I always think, you need to get your velo up across the infield. You cared about a perfect game rating, whatever. But I tell them, my goal for them is to be more efficient throwers. It's not to throw harder. Because what is 6 crow hops and a 93 going to do? It's going to be safe. That's what that's going to do. So they could tell you that. But more than anything else, we want them to be efficient to make the whole package of throws. And this is what this provides. Positional catch. You only have a certain number of bullets. You can't throw across the infield every day. I wish you could, or otherwise we would. I wish they all had rubber arms, but they don't. So why I say this is going into my point earlier is you have to figure out ways to implement that catch play when you can't throw across the infield every day. So the catch play becomes super important, whether it's figuring out different ways to throw across the infield at the end of catch, whether it's coming up with a time at the end of catch. No throw ground balls cause bad habits. I said arm stroke timing is super important. The catch is just one half of the play. You have to work on executing the play. So at the very least, when you take ground balls, you should have an emphasis on transferring. And your footwork should always be echo the runner. Say, hey, one runner. So we call that a 4-2 or better. One runner. They should have one runner footwork. You know, we have guys home right now. We had guys probably take a ton of ground balls over break, and they just put it in the bucket. Or I hope they didn't, but they probably lost that motor skill and just put it right in the bucket. That can cause bad habits. We want them to consistently be working on their footwork, no matter what it is. That's a super important piece because arm stroke timing is a very vital component to catch play, to making plays, to converting outs. So as I said, like this is one of our athletic catch plays, ball on ground behind. Simple, right? But he takes the ball behind him, he learns to throw from a different posture, and he's athletic with it. You don't have to tell them anything. They do it on their own. The game tells them on their own. I'll play it one more time. So here's an example of it happen in the game. That could be a slow roller. It could be a barehander. Heck, we got catching coaches in here, it could be a bunt. It could be a block third strike where they have to come down and be athletic and throw the guy out. The bottom line is these things come up in games, and it helps them understand and sequence and self-organize better. Quarterback throws. And the funny thing is this guy was a high school quarterback. He's got a pretty good three-step drop. It's the only reason I showed this guy. But the other thing is, like, one of our other coaches was a high school quarterback, and he has a pretty good three-step drop. You'd be surprised how many guys can't do a three-step drop. They can't even be an athlete. Their footwork is so bad. And to work on this is something we joke around, but we all work on doing a three-step drop one day, and they have a kick out of it. Everyone's saying the cadence. It gets them engaged. It breaks up the monotony of playing a catch. But the funny thing is this is where it comes up in a game. And that's Alex Mooney. He had a